this is likely to be the 21st billion-dollar weather or climate disaster this year. So does FEMA have the resources to keep on responding to disaster after disaster like this?
So we have absolutely enough resources to continue to support the life-saving response that we need to for this event. I think everybody's aware that we went into immediate needs funding as our disaster relief fund, the funding was running low. But the reason we do that is to make sure we have enough money for an event just like this. And so I want everybody to know that we have exactly what we need, and there are no limitations to our ability to support the response for this disaster. As we know what they need and how we can best adjudicate more than deployed for long.
Projected in terms of the crop insurance, in terms of the flood insurance, there's no new money in the CR as far as this is concerned. Is there any expectation that you're going to have to go back with a supplemental request?
So we did put a supplemental request in.
What's up, Juan? I wonder how you doing,
sweetie? Does not give us a supplemental at this time, but it gives us the ability to spend the money that was put forth in the president's budget. But we're already,
hey Cassie, what's up?
Through INF, $9 billion, close to $9 billion in projects that we have put on hold that we can't reimburse communities for.
Oh, okay.
Once we lift INF and once the CR goes into effect, we'll be able to pay those. But without a supplemental, we will be back in INF probably in the January timeframe.
Okay. Can you talk more about?
You see that up to 20 feet of storm surge expected in Florida, man. That's crazy. If you're in Florida by this hurricane, please take cover, man.
They can do proactively, before the storm.
So Florida has.
It is a crazy time in history, Juana. You're right.
Really aggressive targets to try to get the majority of people. I forget what the exact percentage is. I think it was 85 or 90% within 48 hours back up, and they have several thousand resources that have been pre-positioned.
Kyle, what's up, bud? Good afternoon, buddy.
Or the other utilities to help them get the power back on. We expect widespread power outages from this. When we think about Tallahassee, it's got a lot of tree canopy. So those trees are going to come down and impact those power lines, and the debris and the ability to detangle the debris from the power lines is what could take a long time. The power restoration teams, they do a couple of things from the Army Corps.
What's up, Daniel?
Help us put generators in on critical facilities.
Please, if you are in Florida, man, this hurricane is going to go in and only get stronger right now.
And how to prioritize
in the next couple days, man.
Where we need to put our efforts to help the private sector utility companies get the power restored as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it is, man.
A little bit about how the response has changed based on the severity.
Look at right here, guys. Look at right here. Look at this. Right here.
Storms with increasing severity. So how does that change the response for you? I mean, I know it's more manpower, but what else? How else does it change?
I think the biggest thing is that we want to get things in place early. This is why we've been moving resources into the area since Monday and we know there's a large population that's really vulnerable in Florida. And so that's why we have so many search and rescue teams that are able to come in and augment the really impressive amount of teams that Florida already has within the state, right? So this is on top of what they already have. And so for us,
how you doing, sweetie?
Sure that we are sending more than we think that we'll need. And if I don't need them, I can send them home. What I don't want to do is be short. I want to make sure that I have enough that can support whatever the states might request.
Good. You said that you are headed down there tomorrow. Did you discuss with the president whether it might be possible for him to make the trip down in the coming days? And secondly, is there a single piece of advice or warning that you wish in these kinds of situations people would heed more seriously that you might want to emphasize in this setting?
Yeah, so the purpose of my visit is to assess the impacts, and I'll be briefing him on what those impacts are. I'll leave it to Kareem to talk with him about what actions he might take. But I think the message is take this seriously. I mean, we look at the cone, and the cone is the wind, but the water is what kills people. And so we need to really look at where this storm surge is going to be in Florida, but Georgia, South Carolina,
he deleted it,
and those Appalachians, they're going to have
like shit. I bet you are, Cassie. You've been in the hospital, huh?
Area that can have significant flash flooding, and that is really life-threatening. And it comes.
This is for people in Florida and Georgia, man. I got a lot of friends in Florida and Georgia, man.
The rain starts there, so they need to know what they're going to do now. Put those plans in place today for where they're going to go, how they're going to contact their family and their friends, what they're going to need to take with them, like medicine or powered devices for medical reasons. It's not too late. They should be able to put those plans together today so they can take the actions that their local officials tell them to do.
This is at the White House, man.
Talking about the need to follow evacuation orders.
Look at right here, guys. Keep your eye on right there, man. Keep your eye right there.
That not because they don't want to, but because they can't afford to leave the area.
Oh, he
Don't have anywhere to
he
go.
deleted it. He deleted it himself, babe. He spelled your name wrong.
To work on that particular issue, given what you're talking about with water and the danger that can come from that if people stay in place.
Yeah, so part of the pre-landfall emergency declaration is specific.
Oh, man, check on there, Kyle.
Jurisdictions for any of the costs that they incur to do sheltering and evacuation, because we want.
All right, Juan, appreciate you, sweetie.
To put in place whatever measures that they need. I think the important thing on.
Make sure, Kyle, you get in contact with them, bro.
Told to evacuate.
Look, it's right there, guys. Keep an eye on that right there.
To go to a whole other state. And I think we often think of those pictures of contraflow lines and backed up traffic, but you really sometimes only need to go a few miles to get out of harm's way. And so the local officials should be.
Man, that sucks, man. They don't ever do it, man.
Centers that you can go to until the threat of the storm has passed.
Hi, Timmy.
We get to the point where if they are displaced, then we have the long-term sheltering concerns that we'll have to work with. But the initial sheltering concern is just getting out of this storm's path for right now. Then we can work on what those long-term needs are. And that's why the pre-landfall declaration is so incredibly important that the president approved, is to make sure that those states have the resources to stand up those shelters and to help people get to safety.
Yes, I did. I got it. I start today. I start training today.
Reimburse them, but is Florida ready to do that?
Florida has stood up many shelters, and the American Red Cross is also there supporting that. I just need people to evacuate and go to them.
I'm gonna wrap it up, good, John.
Thanks, Corinne. What resources are available not only to families but also to small businesses?
At the Charlie's Steakhouse, Charlie's Cheesesteak.
Resources coming not only from FEMA but also from the SBA.
Yeah, there's a number of.
I start training today and it opens October 1st.
We specifically made some changes into our disaster declaration, the Stafford Act recently, which allows people that work from home to actually get compensated for some of their business losses.
Look at this, guys, right here, man.
If they had a computer.
Look at this right here. 105 mile an hour to 125 mile an hour gust. Look at this too.
And so we just made that.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
To be able to compensate.
Watch this and what's coming along the bottom right here.
SBA can speak specifically about their programs, but they've also made some really amazing changes this year, which increases the dollar amount that people can borrow from the SBA. It extends the time where they're going to delay the interest until they have to pay it or to start to repay that loan. And it's a tremendous resource to really help small businesses get back on their feet.
How do you decide where to position yourself tomorrow with the storm?
We are listening here to the FEMA administrator, Deanne Criswell, as she is giving an update on Hurricane Helene, which is intensifying and which is huge. It is now on the verge of becoming a Category 3. It is barreling towards the southeastern U.S., and she is warning so much of the storm surge that we are expecting, already seeing tropical storm conditions as we are looking towards this landfall that is expected here in the coming hours. But already there are parts of Florida, we're seeing it here, underwater as these conditions are battering the coast. The National Weather Service is warning of unsurvivable storm surge. That's how they're describing it, up to
20 feet
in some areas.
20 feet in some areas.
It is forecast to become one of the largest storms to hit the Gulf of Mexico in over a century. That is how
Over 100 years, man.
That its winds actually span.
Look at Naples, Florida, 31 mile an hour, 151 mile an hour gust already, man.
Cincinnati and Washington, D.C., or for you West Coasters, San Diego to San Francisco. It's huge. Can't say it enough here. The worry, of course, is that that's going to mean widespread damage. It's going to mean power outages for so many people across so many states. We right now have crews on the ground across the coast of Florida as the storm is bearing down. So first, let's go to the CNN Weather Center and our Lisa Raffa for
Look at this, guys.
overview.
Look at this.
You're tracking this. What do you see?
This is crazy, man. And it's only going to get bigger.
It to intensify, and like you were mentioning, it is so large. This will not just be
Thank you, Tammy.
a Florida problem. Right now, it's a Category 2 hurricane that is trying to organize a little bit better, a sign of strengthening. Right now, it's got 105-mile-per-hour winds, still sitting about 290 miles south of Apalachicola. We've already had multiple tornado warnings coming in on some of these outer bands across parts of Florida, the Carolinas, a tornado warning there near Charleston and southern Georgia, as some of the heavy rain and some of the spin already comes in.
Look at this. It's going into the United States, guys. It's not going back out to the ocean. It's going over land.
Landfall by tonight. And then look at the blue. That's all the tropical storm warnings. We're looking at this keeping its organization as far north as Atlanta. Worried about widespread power outages even as far north as Atlanta because of the damaging winds and the heavy rain. This is the unsurvivable part. 20 feet of storm surge, unsurvivable. That is what you need to evacuate from and move inland away from. This is what we're incredibly worried about from Cedar Key over towards Apalachicola. This is what we need to evacuate from and what we're incredibly worried about. Again, the storm is wide. The tropical storm force winds spanning more than 400 miles. So that's why we're going to find impacts from the southern tip of Florida up through Georgia and the Carolinas.
Look at this. 105 mile an hour, 125 mile an hour gusts, guys. This is fucking crazy. Moving northeast at 14 miles an hour.
Landfall, damaging winds of the eye.
Category 2. Category 2. It's only going to get stronger.
Tropical storm force up in Atlanta. We're also very concerned about this heavy rain. This high risk from Asheville down to the coast is incredibly rare, only issued 4% of the time, and we're worried about damage from flash flooding. Brianna?
All right, Elisa. Yeah, this is serious, and you're keeping an eye on it. We'll be coming back to you for updates here. Let's turn now to CNN's Carlos Suarez. He's live for us in Gulfport, Florida.
I wouldn't live in Florida. I honestly wouldn't live in Florida at all.
Behind you there, Carlos. Tell us what you're experiencing.
Well, Brianna, as you mentioned, we are in Gulfport. That is in Pinellas County, so we are just west of Tampa, where some of the flooding that we saw here earlier today has receded just a little bit, in large part because right now we are in low tide. And so what you're seeing is that some of the water that accumulated here during high tide and some of the rain this morning has gone down just a little bit. As the hours progress, though, and this hurricane continues its trek north and just off the coast of where we are, we expect that this part of Gulfport will flood again because once high tide comes in the afternoon, and then that storm is just due west of us at around 6, 7, 8 o'clock tonight, we expect to get all of that rain to move into this area. Once you get all of that high tide in there, and then that expected storm surge of anywhere between 4 to 8 feet, you can see exactly how all of this is going to play out here. If my photographer can show some of the businesses here to my left, they put sandbags out here yesterday, all in an effort to try to keep some of this water that eventually will make its way up to some of these businesses out here. I can tell you that just on the other side of the street, there does appear to be some minor breaching of the bay. I was over there maybe about an hour ago, and you can see that some of the water, because of the rough seas and the strong winds, have started to push that water over the barrier out here from a fishing pier. And so that is contributing all of this water that's being pushed to the end of the block where we are. I can tell you that this part of
I know, I agree.
Is under mandatory evacuation order, and in fact, emergency officials really gave the folks that live here until around noon today to go ahead and seek higher ground. Brianna?
All right, Carlos, live for us.
Thank you, Tammy. Appreciate it, sweetie.
Appreciate it. Let's go to CNN meteorologist Derek Van Dam. He's tracking conditions in Apalachicola, which is along the Florida Panhandle in Franklin County, which, quite frankly, Derek, we have said a lot here in recent hurricane seasons. We're hearing that Helene could bring devastating storm surge there.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you know, we're keeping a very keen eye to the sky around here, because on top of that storm surge threat is the threat of water spouts moving inland. There was a specific discussion from the Weather Prediction Center that highlighted this area, Franklin County, and Apalachicola, where I am, for these incoming water spouts. We've been monitoring very closely to see if any of these brief spin-ups come through. But that's just one of the myriad problems and threats that face this area. You can see the vacant streets that line Apalachicola, mandatory evacuations for all of Franklin County. But I want to show you the pooling of the water. This is inland flooding, because before Helene's arrival, we've already seen the rain overperform on what of the computer models had suggested. The worst of the storm hasn't even approached. So we're getting all this tropical moisture that's streaming northwards. And, you know, we can hide from the wind, but we cannot run from the rain and the flooding, right? Storm surge and flash flooding. That is going to, when we look back at the history books of this storm, will be one of the major components of how Helene plays out. I mean, we've got this high risk that stretches from the Florida Panhandle where I'm located, right through the Atlanta metro region and all the way northward in North Carolina. So the southern Appalachians, landslides are possible. And I can't stress how rare these high risks are. They're only issued about 4% of the time, yet 40% of fatalities and 80% of the damage occurs within those zones, right where we're located. So this is an expanding storm. It is not only strengthening, but it is also expanding in wind field. And I think Elisa mentioned it, but this is important. This could go down as one of the largest storms in terms of wind field in modern record keeping. Brianna?
Here we're watching it. This thing is huge. Derek, thank you for those updates. We know you'll continue to keep us posted. Danny?
Thank you, Brianna. As Helene tracks north towards the Florida Panhandle, community leaders are pleading with residents to get out. Take a listen.
If you're on the fence about evacuating, please do. Go ahead and make that. Let me nudge you on off the fence. Do evacuate. If I wasn't the sheriff, I'd be evacuating somewhere else. You can believe it.
That right there was Franklin County Sheriff A.J. Smith. He's joining me right now on the phone. Sheriff Smith, thank you so much for your time. Just give us the latest. What are conditions like right now where you are in Franklin County?
Well, the tide is definitely rising, and as you said, a lot of our streets in Apalachicola and on the island are underwater.
Yeah, I know, Tammy. I know.
The causeway, the water's about even with the top of the causeway. It's not over the road, but if we get any more water, it will be over the road. And I'm encouraging people, do not get out in this weather. Stay home. I just witnessed a car ride through high water and it broke down. They called 911. So don't get out in this weather so that we don't have to be out trying to save your life. And if stay home, then you're protecting your first responders as well.
Sheriff, at this point, I know aside from that car that you just mentioned, are residents in your area heat advice?
Yeah, for the most part they are, but we still, just like this person, there was really no reason for them to be out, particularly drive through the water they did. And so really, unless you're a public safety or public works, there's really no reason. Everything's closed. I haven't seen the first business that's open today. Everybody is closed. There's really no reason for anybody to be out unless, you know, you're mission critical like a first responder or some kind of public works person.
Last thing, Sheriff, while I have you on the line here, what are your biggest concerns and what are you watching over the next few hours as this approaches land?
Well, you know, we're not sure if it's going to be a 3 or a 4. The wind is certainly
Hi, Tammy.
How high the wind is going to get, and certainly how high the water is. All our main road, Highway 98, is, you know, sometimes it's 2 feet from the water. So how much road damage are we going to have, and who may have stayed behind in a place that is going to flood? And so those are my concerns as we as this hurricane approaches the coast.
Franklin County Sheriff A.J. Smith, please stay safe. Thinking of you and your community this afternoon and evening. Thank you very much for your time. And please stay with CNN for breaking news coverage of Hurricane Helene all day ahead. How the storm is creating a ripple effect on flights across the country. Also coming up in a moment, the appeal hearing over former President Donald Trump's $1 million fraud judgment just wrapped up.
I can't let that be on there. And then the New York mayor gets indicted. All right, guys, well, I'm going to jump off here, man. I'll be back on later. If anything else comes on, I'll shoot on, guys. Hold on, let me turn this around. I'll shoot back on. If there's anything else comes on about this, I'll be back on. I promise.